People need an income that's guareteed to them.
If you lose money to taxes, you're never getting that money back.
You need to get serious about adding some lower risk.
Greed. I don't like greed.
The thing to be afraid of, honestly, is the thing that we're not thinking of, the black swan event.
There's a tsunami coming. Bye.
Welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Just coffee talk.
There's a lot of noise, a lot of chatter. Who do you listen to? Who do you not listen to? You have to stay focused.
A fun and informative look at the issues of wealth, retirement, and protecting your life savings.
These advisors out there that were trained to sell, and have all these fees. They don't want to talk about this product, so they make less money.
And now, Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Hello again, and welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, you can find us, of course, at zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. It's a show where we talk a lot about what's going on financially in the world at the beginning, and then we kind of boil it back down to what's going on financially with you, because there's a lot of you that are right near retirement, you're in retirement, and you want to know where's the money coming from, and you want to know what is going on in the economy and how you're going to deal with inflation, things like that. That's what we talk about here on this show, and who guides us through? It is Charisse Rivers. How are you doing today?
Oh, fantastic. I've got funny glass lines on my face because I was in the sun all day.
Oh.
Every day, every weekend I've been in the sun. So it's been really nice. But more than recently, we've been going to WEC and over to Live Oak with the kiddos. And we just went to Live Oak not too long ago. There was a international competition for combined driving and show jumping. It was actually very cool because I've gone over to the WEC. We go to the World Equestrian Center, and you find a lot of that happening over there. But I was more intrigued with this Live Oak International competition. People internationally come from everywhere. And actually, I was watching some of the four-in-hand marathon driving, and I was like, holy cow, it's very dangerous. Like the first one that Ella and I saw, Ella came with us, Chester Weber, who is a international, pro at this kind of stuff. He almost split his horses. I was terrified. I was like, whoa, this is not just, an art, but this is seriously dangerous too. So I was impressed with what I saw. And Ella was she says, Mom, anything with horses, I'm there. So she wore her cowgirl boots and showed up, and we just had a really nice time. And they had a whole kids thing there. And, they have hunter jumper, dressage, you name it. So it was a really neat event. I had never been to that event. I showed up probably nearly 20 years ago, but I didn't go watch much of it. So fast forward, it's pretty neat, I'll be honest with you. So that was fun. So I got a farmer's tan from that. And now I'm working on the unfarmer's tan. I think that's what we're talking about.
That's where we started anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Well, good.
You got to reel me in, Randy. I go far left field. People are like, oh my gosh, Charisse, stop talking. Let's talk about retirement. I'm sorry, y'all. But it was a really cool event. I just want to talk about it. And Chester Weber also got the gold. So that was very cool.
Very nice. Okay. Well, one of the things that you'll learn about Charisse is she's into an awful lot of stuff. And she likes to she likes to go out there and take a lot in. And it all kind of comes down to when we talk about retirement, you're probably going to want to do the very same thing. Go out there and take in some new stuff and go out there and do some festivals and things. And that's why we really have this show. So let's get into it a little bit here, Charisse, because we've continued to talk about the volatility of the market, and people wonder, hey, is this going to be the start of something bigger, or is this just kind of a passing thing? Are we just going to go bounce back up again? Who knows? But, Charisse, when you are in retirement, this takes on a whole new meaning, because if you're pulling your money out of the market in order to live and your money's going down, not a good thing. So let's talk about that a little bit, where the income comes from during times like this. Do you shift? Because one way to make your money last is to withdraw less during down times. Nobody wants to do that. Then there's an idea of changing the place where you pull your money. I won't pull it out of the market where it's coming down. I'll pull it out of another bucket. So is that something that you look at?
It is. And a lot of people don't do it that way. So most people, when the market goes down, if you're living on your income, you're still pulling money every month out of those accounts while the market's going down. And most people don't even realize it, to be honest with you. And so that's the scary part. And then 2 years into a down market, let's say, for example, the market continues to go down for 2 years and you're pulling out $4,000 a month out of your Fidelity or Schwab's or wherever you're located. You're not going to see the wrath and the pain of it till 2 years later. And then you're trying to crawl out of this hole, that 2-year decline in stock market, like what happened in 2008, the stock market, S&P dove 50.1%. That's huge. And then it takes you 4 years to crawl out to get back to even. But if you're living on that money while you went down for 2 years and now you're trying to crawl yourself out of this hole for 4 or 5 years, it takes longer. And some people never do. Like, you have to actually stop taking a withdrawal. But I will say 7 out of 10 people out there don't know that. They don't understand this risk out there called sequence of returns. Sequence of returns is a brand new risk for people who are getting ready to retire and about to live on their money. This is when you come to a retirement planner and we talk about, we've been in accumulation phase for the last 30, 40 years of our life. Now we're going to decumulation. People are like, what is that? I don't want to decumulate, Sharice. It just means now you're living on this money that you saved and we're still growing it, but we're growing it a little differently because there's not as much time on your watch. There is strategies. There's absolute strategies. Anybody who's thinking there is zero strategy to retirement and living on your income that is false, fake news. That is not true. You have to actually dial into the planning process. You need a written plan, and you don't need to be feed to death. And you don't need to put all 100% of your money in annuities or 100% of your money in equities. Like, there has got to be a withdrawal strategy and a bucket strategy and an asset allocation strategy. If you're wanting to make sure that you're growing your income, you're growing your principal for a legacy, and protecting, right? So there's so many different things that you have to start planning for ahead of time. And if you can come see us 10 years before we retire, even better. 5 years, I'm excited, and so is our other advisors and team. And some of you might be in retirement today thinking, oh gosh, I didn't do any of that, Sharice. Well, then call us and we'll sit down with you and we'll help you, especially if you've saved some money and you want to make sure that you can protect some of it. But Randy, what you're saying is this sequence of returns, you're pulling money out of an account when the market goes down. So I'm going to do a quick example to circle back because I went left field again. You have $1 million and you need 4%. Most people follow this thing called the 4% rule that was created in the 1990s when the stock market did this anomaly and it grew over 1,000% from 1980s to 2000. So we had this 4% during this boom phase of our lives, right? And then 2000 comes and then we're just crash city. 2008 comes, crash city. And now we just had nothing but growth. But people are following this 4% rule. So if you had $1 million and you followed 4% rule, well, $1 million times 4% is 40,000. That means the rule says if you don't take more than 4%, you will never run out of money. And that has been debunked by major finance professors at colleges. You name it. Wade Fowle, one of my favorite, he's the one who says, no, that's not necessarily true. He was one of the first people. And so we follow these leaders out there that understand this better than the average Joe, because here's the math. You take 4% from your $1 million, 40,000. That's what you needed to cover the gap to add to your pensions and Social Security to live on and travel and do all those wonderful things. But then the very next year, your $1 million dropped to $800,000. Well, to get that $40,000, you're not pulling 4%, you're pulling 5%. Uh-oh, that is a whammy and a no-go. You do not do this, because now we're in sequence of returns risk territory, because now you're having to pull out a higher percentage to still get that 40,000, because you need that 40,000 to cover the gas at the pump, the electric bill, the food, and some other things, right? So now let's say we're in 2008 and that $1 million now has dropped to $600,000, because that's what happened with most people. Now you're not pulling 4%. Now you're not even pulling 5%. You are pulling out 7% out of that portfolio to get that $40,000. Red hot button, put the brakes on. We don't do this in our office, and you shouldn't be doing that anywhere else, because if that's what you need, 40,000, now you have to take a higher percentage. How in the world do you expect $600,000 to get back to $1 million if you have to pull 7% out every year? It ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. So moral of the story is, while the market's doing this, because we know it's going to, we don't know when, we don't know how long, Where are you pulling from? So you're not pulling out of these portfolios that took a massive loss. And if you don't have a plan, then you have a problem. And we're here to help you solve that problem. And so I don't want to kind of go into left field here, Randy, but it's so important to understand the sequence of returns risk, because this is why the number one fear in retirement is running out of money, because it happened to people.
So when you talk about those buckets of money, let's just say it, make it simple here. We've got a short-term, a mid-term, and a long-term bucket. Your longest term money you're going to use in 10 or 15 years, that's probably going to have the most risk to it. Then you have your midterm, and that's going to have a little less risk to it. And then your short-term money may have no risk to it.
Right.
Are we saying then that as we look at this risk money that's going down, do we start taking money out of our cash reserves, or do we start taking money out of the money that we were going to use that has no risk at all, that we're going to use for our daily expenses, or do we have another bucket that is for this particular occasion?
You need to have about 6 different buckets to 7 different buckets working for you at all times. Most of our clients do as well. So we'll have that cash CD bucket, money market bucket. That's right now it's glorious because we're making 3 to 4% on that bucket, right? So we're living off that income. You have a bucket that really you tap into only when markets move backwards. But you have actually 2 buckets like that. So you'll have a treasuries bucket, we call it our neutral bucket, and then you'll have like maybe an annuity bucket. So there's annuities out there. There's 5-year annuities out there still offering 5.3% every year, 5.3, 5.3, 5.3, 5.3 for 5 years. No fees, no losses. You can take 10% out. So I love those types of annuities because you know what you're getting, right? And if you're taking 4% from it and you made 5.3 guaranteed each year for 5 years, your account's growing and you're living on your money. All the while you are leaving your money in the stock market, crashing and burning. Maybe it loses 20, 30, or 40%, but mitts off that money while it's going down and use these other awesome resources to pull your income streams from. Because I'm going to be honest with you, not all your money has to make 7, 10, 12, or 20, or even 30%. I know we had some gangbuster returns this past year, but not every year is that going to happen. But the old school conventional financial wisdom is buy and hold always wins. Buy and hold always wins if you have the stable, great companies that get tweaked every once in a while, but you don't have to sell them when the market's going down. That's the rule. People forget the second part of that rule.
Well, do you have a strategy for when the market goes down? Because when you think about it, if you're going to retire for 20 years, do you think that the market's going to go up 20 years in a row? Absolutely, it will not. You can look at all the stats, and we have corrections, we have bear markets, we have recessions, we have depressions, we have all these different things. So is your strategy for when the market goes down, I'll just cut back, or I won't go on that trip, I'll take less money? Is that really what you want from your retirement? What if you had a bucket of money that was built for this kind of difficulty that we're going through right now? Give us a call. Let's build that for you. 833-368-3680. We talk about a complimentary retirement consultation. If you go to our website, it's zinniawealth.com. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see that button, Complimentary Retirement Consultation. That is a big term for let's do the math on your retirement. Let's sit down and get your questions answered. Get an appointment with Charisse. There is no charge, certainly, for that. And let's go through what you want to do in retirement, what you've saved for retirement, and how those two match up. And if you don't have a strategy for times like this, let's get one. Again, 833-368-3680 or zinniawealth.com. All right, so it's estimated there are 4 million people that will reach 65 years of age this year. That baby boom generation continues to peak, and a lot of them are going to retire this year because when they hit Medicare, a lot of people retire. That's kind of the trigger point. So as people come into you this year and say, hey, Charisse, here I am, can I retire? So take me through the checklist. What is it that you have to do, all the boxes that need to be checked for you to say you have the green light to retire?
So what we want to do is take inventory. So what are all your incomes that are coming in? Do we have Social Security coming in? Do we also have a pension? Or do we have real estate coming in? So there's lots of different directions when it comes to income. So we want to take inventory on that, but we also want to take inventory on your liabilities. We still have a mortgage, still have credit cards. What are our debts? Do we need to buy a car here in the next 3 to 5 years? So where do we stand there? So that's the first step. So we can really gauge, hey, do we need to pay off debt? Okay, if the debt is paid off, okay, it looks like we're looking good. Does our fixed income cover, the gas at the pump and paying the light bill and the grocery bill? And then we got to look at like the health insurance, right? Because maybe the Mrs. is 65 years old and Mr. is 62. And so let's say they're both working, but you both want to retire. We have to consider, okay, if you guys both retire, one of you get Medicare. So we got to do the Medicare check off. Like, what are we going to get, an Advantage plan or a Medicare supplement? Or do you keep your employer plan if that's an option? But then what about the spouse at 62 who has 3 years till they get into this Medicare range? Do you have enough money saved up to actually pay for the insurance if you're not working anymore? Because when you have an employer, cost of insurance is really low. And then that age between 60 and 65, insurance can be very expensive. I would not worry about retiring if it's all based on, can I afford insurance? Because I think that's the biggest myth out there. Most people that we see, they're coming in, or, okay, here's your insurance cost. Yes, you can put this into plan. You can retire now at 60, 61, 62. You don't have to wait till 65. So I think that's one thing that you have to start thinking about. So that's the insurance part. I would consider that part of your expenses and liabilities because that's there forever. Then you might have a plan where you're going to get a pension or a lump sum. So if you're going to get a lump sum or a pension, you really have to do the math. Does it make sense to take the pension or should I take the lump sum? Quick and easy math would be, if they're paying you 6% of that lump sum, maybe keep the pension. But if they're paying you less than 6%, then you can roll it to an IRA, no taxes, no penalties. And we can create that same kind of income stream that you need. Plus now you have access to your principal if you die to give to your beneficiaries, whereas in a pension plan, you do not. So those are considerations we have to look at. The next piece would be the tax plan. We have a 401k or a 403b or 457, deferred, TSP, TICREF, you name it. Do we roll that to an IRA? We definitely believe that you need to move those out of those retirement accounts and move into an IRA because you have limited options in those retirement accounts with your employers. And you might only have 20 options max. You move it to an IRA, we have 30,000 options. So it gives you more diversity, more asset classes to invest in, lower costs on average. So do we roll those dollars to an IRA? But part of the tax plan is, so if you keep it in an IRA, it's going to keep growing tax deferred. Eventually, you're going to have to pay the piper here when you're 73 or 75 years old because you're forced to pull money out of those retirement accounts. Do we consider at that point rolling all of it to a Roth IRA? And I would say 100% probably no, because we don't do all of it. We spread it out over 5 to 10 years. Or do we move it to an IRA and then consider rolling a little bit every year to a Roth IRA? We pay the tax bill on it. So we have tax-free income for you and your surviving spouse, and then tax-free legacies to your kiddos and family members because you have more money in a Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA. So that is a big checklist item. And we do pull out our handy dandy software, tax software, which is incredible. I don't know anybody else who has what we have here, but it will shine a light on should you or should you not, and then how much, and is it worth it? So you'll love that part. So that's number 3 checklist. Number 4 is direct or indirect rollover. So a lot of people will retire and they'll like, just send me the check. And you got, say you have 500,000 in your 401k. If they send you a check, that's called an indirect rollover. So if you keep it there for more than 60 days in your bank account, you get taxed on all that $500,000. That is a huge tax bill at the ordinary income marginal tax rate. So you don't want to do that. You want to do a direct rollover where it doesn't come to your fingertips and it goes to a custodian, and then you can take money as you need it. That's a better strategy. So making sure that you don't miss that. I've met people that paid, $100,000 to $200,000 because they did this indirect rollover. So we want to make sure that's good. So once we get past that, then we have the legacy checklist. Who's getting your money? Is it going to be in a trust? Do we need to get a dynasty trust? Do we need to really create an asset protection trust and really checking that off? Who are the beneficiaries? Is it a hybrid family? Did you just get married 5 or 10 years ago and now you want each other to get each other's money? And then when each of us pass, now it goes to our own individual family members. So there's a lot of considerations. And as we're talking about the legacy planning, we're also building in the long-term care planning strategy. Do we need a plan? Do we not need a plan? Most people who come in and see us, Randy, they can self-pay, but once a blue moon, We might need to tag in and really figure out that asset protection in case somebody does go into a nursing home. So again, that's the basics. There's so much more, but I just want to wet your whistle so you guys can understand what we're looking at when you come in.
So think about that. There's your checklist. 5 major points that Sharice just brought up to give you a green light for retirement. What does the income look like? Social Security, pensions, CDs, and the like. What are your liabilities? You balance those two things out. How much debt is there still there? Do you still have a house payment, a car payment? And then, of course, there's what you need for daily life. The health care, Medicare, Advantage plans, the tax picture, Roths, rollovers, that kind of thing, and the legacy picture with wills and trusts, all the legal plans, the beneficiaries, the long-term care. If we can go those 5 boxes, and as you think about that right now, you're probably saying to yourself, okay, I got a couple of those checked, but I don't have all of those checked. Let's get all of those boxes checked off. And that's really what happens when we sit down and have that complimentary meeting. What we say, do the math on your retirement. Go to our website right now, which is zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. There's a box there that says complimentary retirement consultation. You can click on that. We'll ask you for a little information. Then Sharice and the team will reach out to you. We'll get a date on a calendar and talk through all of this and get those boxes checked, give you that green light for retirement. And if there's a couple of things that come up yellow or come up red, then we've got to fix them. Again, 833-368-3680 is our number, 833-368-3680, or again, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, 72% of people who are in retirement say, man, if I could do this part of this all over again, I would do this. That's the kind of stuff that we can learn from. We'll talk about what they said coming up next on Retirement Coffee Talk. And welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. If it's time to talk about your retirement, let's get that conversation going. Give us a call, 833-368-3680. I think it was last week that we did a story about the 3 things that people in retirement wish they could do over again. And I think it was, I wish I would have saved more. I wish I would have taken Social Security a little bit later. And then the other one was about taxes. And so is this one. This is Fidelity, a study. They say 72% of the people that they talk to in retirement say they wished they had opened a Roth IRA earlier in their careers. They were using that 401k, but not the Roth. And they said they missed the tax-free growth and the tax-free withdrawals. And as I thought about that, I said, well, there is a way to get that if you want to. And Sharice, you just touched on it in our last segment. Yeah. The idea of taking that 401k where probably most of your money is and moving it systematically over to a Roth. So how difficult a task is this? Who is a good person for this? And what are the benefits of this?
All in.
Okay. Big question. All right.
Everyone in.
All
okay.
Right.
So it's a really simple process. It literally takes one form to move IRAs to a Roth IRA. It also takes a couple of signatures if you're opening your first Roth IRA, and you can do them with any custodian that you can imagine or you're working with. Okay. So let's talk about some of the basic stuff. So when you have a 401k, you're putting money in, and if you're with a great employer, they're probably doing some matching. So all that money that you put in and that the employer puts in, it grows tax deferred, and you get a deduction off your income every year. So it's a beautiful thing. But eventually, this little seed you're planting turns into this beautiful harvest. This beautiful harvest is going to cost you more in taxes later than paying the taxes now. So that's what I want you to think about. You got this apple tree, plant the seed, watch this tree grow, and then you got all these apples, and eventually we're gonna have to pick these apples or they're gonna rot, right? So the Uncle Sam won't allow you to let it rot because they're gonna make you pull them and pay the tax bill on them as you go, and that's forever and ever and ever. It never rots. So the only thing that could rot is the returns in your portfolio, and maybe you could possibly watch it going backwards because of the tax bill in the future. So I want to say, if you are working and you have a 401k, I would say 7 out of 10 times I'm going to recommend that you ask your employer if you have a Roth 401k. So a Roth 401k is let's say you put 20 grand in it, your employer puts 5 grand in it, 10 grand in it. All the returns in that Roth 401k grows tax free. So when this big harvest blooms, you don't pay taxes on it, right? So you have to decide if you're going to pay the taxes now or later. And the biggest myth in retirement, Randy, is that, when you retire, you're going to be in a lower tax bracket. No, you're not. 8 out of 10 retirees, they're in a higher tax bracket or at least the same tax bracket. We're trying to help you get to a much lower tax bracket or maybe even a zero tax bracket. We have done that for people, which is very fun to do. We got to do a little bit of work, and I need at least 5 to 10 years with you to really implement that plan. But we're trying to get to a tax-free season of life in the future because we have trillions of dollars of debt, trillions, and it keeps climbing. Anybody seen that debt clock lately? Oh my gosh. So, and the government is going to raise revenue by taxing you. And they're also going to try to cut spending, which I laugh at this moment, but maybe in the future, hopefully, so we can get a balanced budget. But right now we're in a deficit. And the people who pay, Randy, are the retirees who have IRAs. And this great generation is now going to be paying a massive amount of taxes, more than ever. And guess what? Taxes possibly could go up. Maybe they won't. Maybe we got a good 4 years till the next president. And then guess what? Maybe taxes go up then. But if taxes do not go up, this is like going to shop for your shoes and they're on sale. And hey, taxes are on sale, people. Take advantage of it while we have it right now. So again, 401ks versus a regular Roth 401k. Now, let's say you're getting ready to retire. And even if you're not getting ready to retire, do you know that you can roll your old 401ks from old employers to an IRA? And then from there, we can start rolling your IRAs over to a Roth and you just pay maybe a little bit of taxes at a time. Again, those IRAs will go into a Roth and that Roth will grow tax free. So let's say you had $1 million today. And over the next 10 years, we rolled $100,000 a year out of it into a Roth. So you pay the taxes on that rollover every year, right? Maybe it costs you $20,000, maybe it costs you $40,000, but to save the big tax bill for the remaining 30 years you might live in retirement, I will prove to you based on our software that we have that 9 out of 10 times it actually makes sense to do that because you're thinking, well, that's crazy. How do I pay for that rollover? And so we have a strategy for that. But you won't believe it until you see it. And it's in the eyes of the beholder. If you're somebody who says, Sharice, I don't want my kids to get any money, all this is going to charity, then probably doesn't make sense. Or if you're splitting it half kids, half charity, there's going to be a different number. So it's not cookie cutter, right? And so it's a simple process. It's just making that first step to educating yourself, which is what we do here at Zinnia Wealth. So we want to educate you first, show you the why and the reason, and then you get to decide what you want to do at that point. So yes, rollover IRAs to a Roth is simple, and there's no better time than the present. So I would actually take action in case taxes do stay stable for the next so many years before they have to go up.
So let's talk about the benefits of it, because we're going to go through a little bit of pain here because we have to pay these taxes a little bit at a time, and that doesn't sound fun at all. But at the other side of the tracks, I guess we could say, there is some benefit over there. So when we get into that age where the government says, now it's time for RMDs, you have to start taking money out of this 401k or this IRA, how does that help us down the line?
Right. So it specifically really helps both of you while you're alive, but then the surviving spouse, because people forget when one spouse passes, all of a sudden your tax bill goes up an average of 5 to 10 grand at minimum. And then when the second spouse passes, then we get the kiddos penalty, all coined by a financial buddy of mine who I love dearly. And then the kids have to deal with this big tax ramification because they can't stretch those IRAs for the rest of their lives. They got to cash it out now due to the Secure Act new rules. So we have to start figuring out, okay, so if you have $1 million in a retirement account and you die, you can almost say, based on today's taxes, that 40% is probably going back to your partner, Uncle Sam, and only $600,000 goes to your kiddos, right? This is this concept and example, but I've seen it happen a bunch of times recently. So the question is, if you're thinking, well, 400 grand, 300 grand, 200 grand, I don't want any of that going to Uncle Sam. I'd rather slowly pay the tax bill now, since I'm in a lower tax bracket, than hand over this debt that we owed Uncle Sam to my kiddos. So we want to strategize for that. If you want them to get that full $1 million, then we got to work on it now. And at the end of the day, what happens is that $1 million keeps growing and it grows tax free. And then you'll see that legacy get even larger in that tax-free bucket. And it's a beautiful thing. So we'd be honored if you guys wanted to come in, and we would, one of our advisors, myself, whoever, will do that tax plan for you. And I'm going to promise you this one time that you probably will not see this anywhere else. And I had shopped the market for years for something like this, and it was very hard to get. And so now we have it, and we're proud of it. And it is more than just a pencil and a calculator and a piece of paper. It is real math doing the work for you very simply. You might say, I only want to roll 20,000. Some people say only 100,000. I got a new client who's rolling 200,000 because it only costed them $20,000 more to do it. So the math will show you. You get to decide and dictate.
There you go. Well, let's plug your numbers in. And that's one of the things that we talk about all the time is having a customized plan for your retirement. You may have some friends that do this. You may have some friends that are totally against this. Well, let's do your math and figure out if it's right for you. If most of what you're bringing to the table, and this is the case with so many of us, most of our money's in a 401k. Does it mean we're in a big tax trap? Well, let's find out. Let's do the math on that. Give us a call. Give us a look on our website. Start there. ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. There's a gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. If you click on that, you'll be on your way. Our team will reach out to you, or you can reach out to us right now. 833-368-3680. 833-368-3680. So most of the people that we're talking to are getting ready for retirement. But I want you to think for just a moment if you were already in retirement. Let's say you retired in the year 2000. Who knew that we would have two major market pullbacks in 10 years? Who knew that inflation would go from 2 to 9% during your retirement? Who knew we would have something like COVID take place? These are all things completely out of your control. And things happen in your retirement years, which is why when you sit down with Charisse, it's not just a one-time meeting to put a retirement plan together. This is going to be an ongoing relationship when things happen in the economy and things happen in your life. What if your mom went into long-term care and you had to take care of her and you had to oversee that? What if you found a love for RVing and you never knew that you loved this and all of a sudden you wanted to travel around the country? Things change. So, Charisse, talk to me about the ongoing service that you offer people. Once we get that retirement plan in place, it's not set it and forget it. It's continuing to nudge and move and adjust and have meetings and say, what's going on right now? How can we help?
Right. So we like to stress test a portfolio every year. When you first come in and meet us for the first time, we're stress testing your portfolio. So we're basically just saying, can you stay retired? Where can you pull from? What are the returns? Where do we really need to go? And the interesting thing about changes in retirement, Randy, I will say about all my clients, every 3 to 5 years, we got to make a pretty massive change. Mm-hmm. It could be health. It could be, I want to travel more. It could be death. And so you want to make sure your advisor is keeping up with your plan. You're sitting down with them. And that doesn't mean you have to sit down with them every year, but when big things change, you better be sitting down with them. And I would absolutely recommend at least a Zoom call or a conference call once a year. It just kind of keeps everybody, at pace and making sure that the plane's landing, right? So that's important, stress testing your portfolio, especially every 3 to 5 years. And if you don't have somebody stress testing your portfolio, I would be worried because things change so fast, Randy. I mean, look at inflation over the years. Have you corrected your inflation adjustable income plan? Some of you are probably like, I don't even have one, Trace. What does that mean? Well, if you were here, you would know what that meant. So you do need those changes because investments change. People come in and they get their portfolio x-ray done, Randy, on their first appointments. And what we find is they're paying 2% in fees when we break down each fund and we put that scalpel to their portfolio. We find people in tons of mutual funds, hardly any exchange traded funds. I mean, you can drop a 0.5% to 1% fee by just transitioning those. We see people with variable annuities and we're moving them to index or fixed annuities because of fees. And if you're just looking for a good income stream and a conservative growth, income makes the world go around. Let's make sure we button up the income. Let's stress test your portfolio every year. Every 3 to 5 years, we're bobbing and weaving. We're changing. The economy is changing. Maybe the market's going down. Maybe the market's going up. Maybe interest rates went down. Maybe they went up. Maybe inflation just kicked our rears, right? And so then we have stagflation, right? And so when that happens, we got to shift gears. So there's so many things that are part of our stress test that we encourage people to have that ongoing conversation. If you have an advisory firm who's doing that, great, congratulations. You're probably with somebody pretty darn good. But if you're not and you're thinking, this is foreign to me, what? My advisor hasn't called in 2 years, or I don't know what I have, then call us. There's plenty of us here willing to help, and we'll sit down and we'll do that stress test for you.
Well, we have ongoing support here at Zinnia Wealth. We all in our lives have people that we call, that we kind of, they're in our phone. You've got an attorney in there. You've got a tree service in there. You've got a mechanic in there. You've got, people who paint in there. All of that kind of stuff is there. Who is that person that you call for your retirement? Now, if you don't have that person right now, let's get that person in your life. Give Charisse a call, give the team a call, and let's sit down if we mesh and find out if what we offer for you is what you're looking for. And as again, I want to say that this is not just a one-time meeting. This is something that we're going to walk with you through your retirement years. And when things happen, you're going to want to have somebody to call. Give us a call right now and let's set that up. 833-368-3680 is our number. 833-368-3680, or our website, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. There's a gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. Click on that and you'll be on your way. All right, what are people asking right now? According to a new study, here are the 4 things people want to know when they walk through the door of a financial advisor. Am I protected from a downturn? Number 2, what do I need to do to outpace inflation? Number 3, am I going to meet my goals? And number 4, how do I preserve and pass on what I have built? It's kind of going along with the list that we already kind of talked about here today, Charisse. To give people the green light for retirement, you gave us that list. This is kind of the same kind of thing. This is what people are looking for.
They are. And, we have a great way to show this. We had rejiggered some old school software that made life simple at the Office of Zinnia Wealth Management for all the advisors in the team, and even for the client. So we wanted something so simple that they can understand it. We could build it out. We can change it within seconds. We don't have to use Excel, etc. And this software, we just pull up on the big screen. We show you, okay, here's your Social Security income, here's your pension income, here's your real estate income if you have some of that real estate income, here's your 6 buckets, and we're going to pull from these buckets here and then these buckets here, but then if the market bounces around, we're going to go here. And we want to also talk about inflation. Every plan has to have an inflation adjustable income built in. So every year you're going to watch your income going up to keep up with inflation. And then we start the plan very pessimistically. We're not going to show you what we've done in returns. I'm going to be very pessimistic. I'm like, if this is what happens, I'm really just a shoddy, really bad advisor out there. Hey, it's not so bad. You still win the game, or do you not win the game, right? And then we'll show you the returns we've had and say, hey, if we do this like we've done over the last 5 years, this is what it could look like. Oh, okay. So it's nice for people to see like pessimistically what things look like, instead of just going into like a big brokerage firm or one of those big banks and they're just like, yeah, put your money in here. We're going to next 10 years going to double your money. We're going to get this 7% every year. Like, that's not a plan. That's a stock jock. I love you, stock jocks. Don't worry. I do. But there's a place for a certain clientele, for a certain advisor. So you want to make sure you're working with a retirement advisor. During your accumulation phase, I'm all about the stock jock. Put your money in this, and there's closing your eyes and just keep going. Let's run the gamut, ups and downs all around. But then when you retire, you certainly have to pull out this software like we have, create an adjustable income every year for the next 30 years, and for your spouse. We need to build out that, hey, am I going to pull an extra 20,000 or 40,000 or 100,000 for our travel? I have clients that do all 3 of those. I have one client that's like, yeah, well, I'm going to need another 100 grand this year because we want to just go fly first class, do it right, get that suite on the balcony on the cruise ship. And so we need to plug that into the plan and make sure you don't run out of money, or hopefully make sure you don't run out of money, right? And if we, in the plan, it shows that you are running out of money, we're like, $100,000 extra in travel might be a bit much, but hey, we can maybe do 75 or whatever the number is. So we're just that voice of reasoning, doing the math for you, showing you what you can spend, what you can't spend based on what you save, based on your liabilities, based on your fixed incomes that are coming in. And we make it very easy to understand. And we want to really start it more pessimistically. And then we want to show what if a spouse passes away? Do we lose a pension? Because we definitely lose one Social Security. So do we need to plan for that? Do I need to build a contractual guarantee bucket so that when one spouse passes away, we click into this other pension plan that we can create? So we got to look at that. And then the legacy. Do we want to pass our money on? Do we want it to grow while we're living on it? Or you want to spend your last dollar on your last breath? So again, our written plans, people love them. The software is incredible. And if you haven't seen something like this, then, we're going to implore you to come in and see one of the advisors, and we'll stress test that portfolio. And then we'll also bring in the income plan part of it.
Well, we would love to have the opportunity to have that conversation. And as I say, you will know more going out than you did going in. That's when we sit down and start this process and doing the math on your retirement, giving you all of this information. I think that you'll really start to see a clear picture of what it looks like to retire, and maybe we give you the green light, and maybe you go back to work and you go back with a whole new attitude, or you say, I'm putting the keys in this week. That's it. I'm done. 833-368-3680 is our number. 833-368-3680. Or online, zinniawealth.com. All right, so Cherise, how much time do you think that you spend scrolling on your phone? I know you're doing meetings all the time, but we all have this bad habit of we got our nose on our phone all the time. How long in every day do you think you have your nose in your phone?
Like, is that social media or emails and texting people back?
Anything.
Oh, so social media, 0. I'm hardly on social. You might, for the week, get 10 minutes of scrolling in social media for me, and that's kind of a stretch, to be honest with you. But when it comes to, like, I do everything on my phone. So people across the country are always like, you sent me an email at 4 o'clock in the morning. It was clear it came from your cell phone. Do you do anything on your laptop? I'm like, when I'm on a go, I just got to go and do what I got to do to make I live on this phone. So texting, at the end of the day, I got like 30 texts. I got to text everybody back, and I won't open it up until I know I can text people back. So I don't want to miss anybody. I want everybody to be treated equally, right? And then my emails, oh my gosh. So
you're in there a lot. Okay.
There's a lot of emails. So yeah, I'm embarrassed, but that's the work life environment. But there's 0 wasted time on TV, social media, or Yellowstone.
I love it. All right. The average person spends, here it is, 2 hours and 15 minutes a day with their nose in their phone. That is a full 3 full days a month, which adds up to 36 days a year. You are sitting there looking at your phone. Now,
you know what? I think the numbers are bigger than that. Where'd you get these stats? This cannot be accurate. It's got to be more. People are like so in social media. And then if they got a job, you got to keep up with that. So, okay. Anyway,
well, there's so much garbage out there to look at. And at the beginning of this show, and it's been there for years, you say, tune out the noise. Because I know that I do it. I look at my portfolio every day. I do. I see, I look at the markets every day. I look at financial news every day. And I'm in there all the time. And I know a lot of people are as well. And it's one of the reasons that they will come to you. And they'll see stuff in the news. They'll see these headlines, and they'll freak out a little bit. And they'll go, Cherise, I'm losing money. What do I do? What do I do? And
I know.
So let's talk just for the last minute or so of the show here, just about tuning out the noise, because there's a lot of it right now.
Oh my dear, is there so much noise out there? Everyone, stop listening, and trust on your plan that you have, that written plan your financial advisor gave you. Trust the plan. If you're in that plan, you should be able to see, okay, here's my safe money, here's my medium risk money, and here's my super risk money. And if that lands a plane for you and you understand how that works, and you feel like you're never going to run out of money based on the plan, then ignore the noise. Anybody who's running to the TV day in and day out to see the S&P 500, where's it at? That is not a retirement plan. That is not a stress-free retirement. When you walk out the double doors of your employer, you collect your last check, Do not enter a stressful retirement. Turn in the keys, shut the door, have checks ready to go because you've been working with an advisor, and enjoy it. And if you are running to TV and you don't know your plan, then I understand why you're so stressed. But, we want to live a stress-free retirement. We want you to live on your income. We want you to enjoy it. We don't want to base your retirement on luck, right? So we're going to take part of that out of the equation. We want to make sure those checks are coming to you every month, and you're going to have 5 or 6 different checks from us possibly, and then they're always going to come. That's what we want to do. And if you know those checks are always coming and you can live the next 30 or 40 years in retirement, guess what? You're going to spend more. You're going to enjoy more. You're going to spend more time with your family. You're going to go on the boat more. You're going to get out and go hiking more. You're going to go on cruises more because you know the money's coming. And that is a stress-free retirement that we're trying to share with the people in North and Central Florida.
Well, one of the things and one of the reasons people come in is because the headlines get so crazy, and we're in one of those times right now. If it's getting to you, give us a call. Let's sit down. This is a red flag. This is probably saying you've got too much in the market, and you need to adjust that. That's very simple. Give us a call. Here's our number. Here's our website, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. Hit the gold box. It says complimentary retirement consultation, or use our number, 833-368-3680. Again, 833-368-3680. Sharice will give you the last word on this one.
All right, you all, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate your time over the weekend when you could be doing lots of other things. And as usual, live by design and not by default. And we'll see you here next week.
This has been Retirement Coffee Talk. To find out more about how the strategies we've discussed on this program can build the retirement you've been wanting, call Zinnia Wealth at 352-368-3680 or visit us online at ZinniaWealth.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The firm only conducts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded from registration requirements. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Insurance products are offered through Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC, Florida license L078655, and Sharice Rivers, Florida license P037744. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, and Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC are affiliated entities. The information presented is believed to be current. It should not be viewed as personalized investment advice. All expressions of opinion reflect the judgment of the presenter on the date of the podcast and are subject to change. The information presented is not an offer to buy or sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy or sell any of the securities discussed. You should consult with a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies discussed. Any legal or tax information provided in this podcast is general in nature. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation. Any client experience discussed on this show are unique to that client. Annuity and life insurance guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. If you withdraw money from or surrender your contract within a certain time after investing, the insurance company may assess a surrender charge. Withdrawals may be subject to tax penalties and income taxes. Persons selling annuities or other insurance products receive compensation for these transactions. These commissions are separate and distinct from fees charged for advisory services. Insurance products also contain additional fees and expenses. Social Security rules and regulations are subject to change at any time. Always consult with your local Social Security office before acting upon any information provided herein. References to specific investments should not be construed as being past specific recommendations. The returns for various indices discussed in this podcast do not represent the performance of the firm or any of its advisory clients. Returns do not reflect the impact that advisory fees will have on an investment. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All investment strategies have potential for profit or loss. Different types of investments involve higher and lower levels of risk. There is no guarantee that a specific investment strategy will be suitable or profitable for an investor's portfolio. Historical performance returns for investment indexes and or categories usually do not deduct transaction and or custodial charges or advisory fees, which would decrease historical performance results. There are no guarantees that a portfolio will match or outperform a specific benchmark. Investments in fixed income products are subject to liquidity risk, market risk, index rate risk, credit risk, inflation risk, purchasing power risk, and taxation risk. Because bond prices fluctuate continually, their yields change constantly.